On video, you transferred it to film footage. You did things that were almost Beatlesque in 1971. At this point in time, the Beatles were defunct. They weren't even together anymore. Ringo had a cameo performance in the movie.
Well, he had a more than cameo performance in the movie. Ringo played me. And as far as some of the things that were done, it was the first time they were done. That was the first feature-length motion picture shot on videotape and then transferred to film. The technical effects that were in there are the precursor of maybe 70% of the technical effects that you'll see on MTV or any kind of video channel now. And they were done with experimental hooking up of mundane equipment that was available at that time. At that time, the video editing itself had to be done manually. They didn't even have computers like a CMX to edit the video together. I had to edit that film in video form, standing up in an area that was about as wide from here to there. It was like a trailer, ice cold room. A mark with a magic marker on the edge of the tape, and then back up 10 seconds from that, and then push the button on two machines, and then would roll in and hope that it locked. Okay? And every edit in that film was done that way. And then it was transferred to 35 millimeter, and the soundtrack was synchronized, the sweeteners were added, sound effects and so forth, and it was done. And when it first played in Los Angeles, there were technical people from the motion picture industry there at the screen, certainly not because they wanted to see a rock movie, but they were walking up to the screen to see whether they could see any video lines in it. Because the company that transferred the film had a device they called a wobulator, which took the scan lines and looped them like this, and then sandwiched them on top of each other, which helped to wash out the scan. That's why 200 Motels has their appearance. But the saddest thing about 200 Motels is the producer of the film, in order to be a really fiscally prudent individual, all of the film was originally shot on 2-inch PAL, good quality, better quality than US video, 2-inch reels, and there was maybe 25 or 30 of them. He had them bulk erased and resold for scrap, thereby putting $3,000 or $4,000 back into the film budget in order for him to go to the United Artists who had put up the money for the film and say, "See, we're really tight with the budget. Like maybe next time we'll get to do it again." It was so stupid. Do you know what those videotapes would be worth today, the original material?
Uncountable.
Yeah. I mean,
that's art.
Yeah. And so, somebody saved $3,000 or $4,000 in order to do that.
Everything that that you've been involved with has been labeled, and I know how much you like labels, but art rock and avant-garde and things like that. Your training, what kind of training, and in technical training, with video and stuff like that as a kid, and how did you start out with music?
Well, first of all, I'm a middle-aged Italian, father of 4 with a high school education. Everything else I learned by doing it. You go out and you do it. I learned how to do video editing in 1 week, the hard way. Freezing cold in that room with a magic marker in my hand. With 2 English editors whose main goal in life was to go across the street to the pub and return to the editing room with tumblers like this full of Guinness. That brown, dangerous liquid? And they were just, that was fun. But, if you have a technically oriented mind and you want to learn the discipline of doing that stuff, unless you're the one who has to tweak the machine or replace the resistors in it, you can learn the concept of doing these kind of things fairly easily.
Really, Frank Zappa, it's kind of the story of the all-American self-made man. You're a fundamentalist when it comes to the Constitution. I know you don't like anybody to mess with that. You believe in the First Amendment. We were talking earlier.
I want to see somebody who doesn't believe in the First Amendment. I mean, where are these people that don't believe? Everybody says they believe in it, but what are you willing to do about it?
People want to change it. They want
to rewrite it so it sounds like the 1.2 Amendment.
As a writer, you've done a lot of writing and of course with your music. As a producer, you've produced a lot of people coming out of the Los Angeles underground scene that we're talking about. You produced the GTOs, you produced Wildman Fisher, you produced Captain Beefheart.
I produced the first Lowell George single, which never got released.
Lowell George was in your band, as a matter of fact, the Mothers of Invention at one point. And Lowell had a very large following here in Washington with Little Feat.
There's still a tape someplace in my vault of a song called Lightning Rod Man, and the other side was called Black Protruding Tongue, when Lowell had a group called The Factory.
As a musician, it's not just rock for you. It's like operas like Billy the Mountain and projects like that. Did you ever find it difficult, to go from an instrument like guitar into scoring things that have been played by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra chorus, people like that?
Well, here's how I got into business. When I first started off, I was a consumer of rhythm and blues. I never thought I could play it. I liked to listen to it. I used to collect rhythm and blues records. But while I was doing that, I was writing chamber music and writing orchestral music. I started writing that when I was 14. I didn't write a rock and roll song until I was in my 20s. And I wrote all this music and sent it to orchestras. Nobody would play it. So I figured if I'm writing music, I better write in a medium where I can get a musician to play it. I remember taking one of my compositions to the guy who was then the conductor of the Baltimore Symphony. His name was Massimo Freccia. And I was so young, you know, he looked at me like, you know, how can you possibly be a composer? And was giving me this quiz as we're walking down the street. What's the lowest note on a bassoon? Well, B flat. You know, I mean, it's hard to convince somebody if you don't look like you're from a university or something that you can write music. So I just said, and went out and did something else. How many fingers am I holding up?
When you left Warner Brothers Records, it seems that you got more creative. When Shake Your Booty came out, it seems that your return to your satire and your scope seemed to be, you get back to some of that that you had started out with again. It seemed to inspire you when you left Warner Brothers Records, and you...
It would inspire you too if you had been with that company for 8 years, I'll tell you. But the real thing that determines the character of each album is who's on it. Because certain bands have certain types of things that they do well and certain types of things that they do badly. And you can't take a band that is specializing in one sort of thing and make them do something else. For example, you couldn't get the band that had Mark and Howard from the Turtles to look or sound like the band that had Ruth Underwood and George Duke. It's two different worlds. But it's the same idea of the music. You want to have a different medium of expression. So some people like one era of the albums over the others, and some people hate them all, and that's fine. They should be free to do that.
With 45 albums, I think there's something for everybody with Frank Zappa's music.
Well, I think so, but the problem is getting it out to the public, because since today, in order to really have exposure on the radio, you do have to pay off, and I refuse to do it. And the other thing that you have to do is play the MTV ball game, and you know, up to a certain point, I'll cooperate with MTV. I'll do interviews for them, and you know, I've been on there before. But it's the whole ethic of selling music via picture, where ultimately the picture is the most important thing you're selling. You don't listen to the song anymore. You're looking at the girl's legs getting out of the car, her butt going up and down like that. You know, can you really see her tits through the thing? You know, that's what that has turned into, and it's got nothing to do with the song. And after you've watched some of those promos, the saturation point comes after maybe 6 or 7 viewings. And if you're just listening to a record, you can listen to a record hundreds of times because the appreciation is on a different level. And my field is music. I like to write music, and that's what I'm interested in. So the audience for what I do is probably shriveling up like a prune, but you know, that's tough tuckus. I'm not going to change my tactics in order to do something else. If you like it, it's there, and if you don't like it, go do something else.
Again, the technology that you're using with your music, you're recording digitally. You're doing the state-of-the-art recording with Barking Pumpkin Records right now.
Yeah, well, if you're going to make a record, why not do it the best way that it's possible to do it? I think that a person who spends the money on the record has worked hard enough for the $8 or whatever it is that he's spending on the album, so show him a good time.
I've been listening to your music for 20 years and watched it pretty carefully. You are a purveyor of the music business. I mean, you know what's going on, what's happening. What do you see happening in the future? What do you see 10 years down the line?
Well, it depends on who wins the censorship business that's going on. You know, one way, here I'll give you the bleakest outlook, okay? Let's say that these deranged housewives of Washington, D.C. succeed in prodding the Congress or whatever into enacting legislation that opens the door for the type of censorship that you would have in the Soviet Union. You know, Pravda Rock. It has to be state approved, and it has to have that kind of aroma that makes it look and smell like something really Christian. And they would do things like this. They would get the foot in the door, and then they would say, this is not enough, we must go directly to the root of the problem. And do you know what the root of the problem is? The root of the problem is the alphabet itself. Certain letters, then certain words could not then be formed. And we would have this new, approved Christian alphabet with about 6 or 7 consonants in it. You wouldn't even be able to spell Jesus Christ with this new alphabet. Then they would go directly to the numbers that we all use when we're adjusting our little bank books and so forth. And they would say, there are 4 numbers here that are suggested. There's one that looks like a hole, and there's another one that's sticking straight up. They've got to go. And those two that fit together, one that looks like it's upside down against the other one, which we can't say, they've got to go. So now you fix the alphabet and you fix the number system. Now we're going to work on the national bird. Now the eagle is okay, but he's an endangered species. We're going to go for the ostrich. The ostrich represents the way things really are. And the ostrich gets scared, it sticks its head in the ground, it sticks its ass up in the air, and it quakes a little bit. Okay? That'll be the new American national bird. Now the flag. The red is too racy, the blue is too deep, and the white is too hard to keep clean. We're going to do away with that. It's going to be beige. It doesn't offend anybody, and it looks great as wallpaper on marriage.
This is the bleakest down there.
Yeah, and the best is, we'll say, look, let's be reasonable about this. Sex is good for you. It's a natural function. There is no reason to think that a person shouldn't know about how his own body works at the earliest possible age. Just because you know about intercourse, masturbation, or any of that doesn't mean you have to go out and do it when you're 5 years old, okay? It doesn't hurt to know. Why keep people ignorant? The more you know, the happier you're going to be, right? So don't be afraid of words that make you think about sex. You're not going to die from it. You're not going to go to hell from it. You could die from it if you get AIDS, of course. The government's got something to do with that. You got to spend a little bit more money on it, but you know, the good outlook would be people will say this is unrealistic. It's overblown. It is cotton candy news, and they would just forget it. But that's not going to happen because America has gone too far to the right to just say, okay, I think this is a mistake.
While we're on the subject of America, when I was growing up in the 1950s, I grew up in suburban Massachusetts outside of Boston. You could drive a couple of hours one way up into New Hampshire, you could drive down to New York, and the countryside looked remarkably different when you were in different areas. Things looked different. And now, here we are in the 1980s, with the burger franchises and things like that. Everything looks remarkably the same.
Well, you know,
is this related to the check-writing nincompoops that you refer to?
I think that it's a reflection of the attitude of the times. People today are, in a way, mentally more like the people of the 50s because they're so very conformist. They're so afraid of what's going on that they don't want to take the risk of being an individual. Everybody, when they go home, they go, oh, you know, I'm not tired of acting like that. You know, I had to do that to keep my job. Oh, I hate that. Now I'm going to take a bunch of drugs and forget about it. You know, there's a lot of pressure on people because they want to be themselves. You were not born as a clone of somebody else. You're an individual. I'm one. You know, you're one. All of you out there, you're one too. So you got a right to be yourself. But there's all this pressure to act like a certain kind of a person so that you can have certain kinds of friends and fit in somewhere so that you can be certified as a label. You say, oh, I got it. I like the idea of being a yuppie. So even if you're not one, you know, you'll make yourself one so that you can go to a yuppie bar. And then when yuppies don't want to be called yuppies anymore, you'll turn into whatever they turn into. You got to have that stuff going for you. I mean, it's a waste of time. Who wants friends to borrow money from you?
Hey, sir.
Coming up this inning, the 1, 2, and 3 hitters. He's out there on the mound with no stuff.
What is your plans? What your plans for the future? Can we expect a tour?
You won't see a tour, but I'm coming back to Washington, D.C. when Goldwater has his hearings on the porno rock. And I'm going to come back and make my testimony about it because I don't represent the record business. I'm a middle-aged Italian guy with 4 kids. I write music, and I don't like the idea of having somebody who was never elected. I didn't vote for him. You know, these housewives, I didn't vote for him now. I don't want them messing with my rights and with First Amendment rights, you know, and I will fight it. I'll do that rather than doing a tour.
Is this the chrome-plated megaphone of destiny that you wrote about all those years ago?
You know what that is? It's part of the problem. The chrome-plated megaphone of destiny is that little chrome pee hole on the bottom of those dolls they give the girls, okay? And sometimes they're boy dolls. Now, what do you think that does to the imagination of the kid when he finally finds out that on a human being, that little chrome doodad ain't there? You know, it's a big breakthrough. They're putting the little plastic dorks on some of them now. That is the chrome-plated megaphone of destiny. What you don't know can hurt you.
I want to thank you for coming by and talking to us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Frank.
All right.
Thank you.
Why? Oh, God, he said that. Oh, no.
No, I never did the chrome-plated megaphone.
My dolls never had that, no. You know, the last time I did CNN, I was on the Sandy Freeman show, just to see the show. Yeah. And that's the guy that wanted to take over CBS. Plated megaphone of destiny with this. It's not like this. Poof, and then two, and how many fingers am I holding? And then you take this, and it goes around like that, and right in there, that's the home-plated megaphone. Hole, and then it's like this. Watch this. Is this still on? You're going to hear what I'm saying? You're printing sound? I saw this on television. This is, you ever watch the Crouchies on TBN?
Sure.
Okay. Have you ever noticed his hand movements when he's talking to somebody? You know what he does?
Yeah.
When he's making a point. He was interviewing Dr. Schuler with the Crystal Cathedral, and as he builds his idea up, he points at the guy, and as he builds his idea up, he rubs his finger like this, and when he finally is going to say it, he goes like that at him, and he kept doing it. I was going, what is the body language involved here? Mean. What do these guys do when the camera goes up? If I sat on television like that, you'd think I was weird. Yeah. Also, if I sat on here and said what Candy said, you'd think I was weird.
That was a purpose pitch. A change up off the plate, hoping the batter would go chasing.
You know what those two guys were talking about, though, on the show? They were talking about balancing the budget. Two religious guys balancing the budget on every channel. And he was going to go on there and say, we need $1 billion from someone, $1 billion donation to help the national debt. He says, I know there are some out there who could give it. And like that. He was serious. And Crouch was sitting there agreeing with him, and the wife is sitting there with the tears rolling down her face and the mascara making puddles on her pinafore. These people are a joke.
But first, we have a warning of our own. We're about to play some music videos with lyrics you might find offensive or you might not want your children to hear. It is by no means the most explicit material you can find in today's popular music, but it will give you some idea of why some people are concerned. At least two national groups want labels on records, telling buyers when the contents are violent, occult, or as in these examples, sexual in nature. Critics call music like that porn rock. There's going to be a Senate hearing on the subject tomorrow, chaired by Senator John Danforth of Missouri. He's joining us in Washington this morning with one side of the coin. And with the other side is Frank Zappa, rock star and record producer. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Let me begin with you, Senator. I was watching your face while you were watching those videos, and it was not, you did not look pleased with them. What is it about them that irritates you so?
Well, I think what we're seeing now is something that really is a new breakthrough in music. It is unknown, and to the best of my knowledge, in any other form of music, and that is explicit sex, often violent sex, glorification of rape, glorification of sadomasochism, beyond the sexual area, almost stimulating people to suicide, to violence, Satanism. And I think that one of the concerns is that not only that this is going on in some forms of rock music, not all rock music, but some rock music, but the fact that kids who are sometimes quite young are going out and buying these records without their parents really knowing anything about it. And the big debate that's going on now is whether there should be some more information out there in the public, and particularly available to parents, so that parents can exercise some sort of value system or some sort of control within their own families.
Okay, but very often, as we all know, children go out and buy these records, even despite the fact that their parents know that there will be a warning on them. But you were going to talk about this in a hearing tomorrow. What is the goal of the hearings you'll be holding?
Well, the goal of the hearing is to put this all out in the public domain, and to allow the American value system to operate on it. Nobody is suggesting legislation. Nobody is suggesting that Congress prohibit anything, or even that Congress enforce some labeling provision. There are negotiations now that are going on between private groups and record companies for a voluntary labeling system. But basically the object of the hearing is to put the whole issue before the American people so that the content of some of these recordings is something that people are talking about.
Mr. Zappa, how do you feel about that? This is your business, you make these records. Do you feel that perhaps you're poisoning the minds of America's young?
Well, first of all, I don't make those records. I make an entirely different kind of music. I think that music does not poison people's minds. I think that this hearing is a waste of time. I think that the pressure groups that have decided to work against the record industry in this regard are way out of line.
Why?
What they're suggesting is beyond censorship. They're going into realms of behavior modification. First, nobody holds a gun to your head and tells you have to buy it. Also, the media in covering this shows videos. This is about lyrics. It's not about pictures, remember? His comments were about what he saw. He's talking about these pictures that are stimulating. I think that's another story altogether. It began with lyrics.
But Mr. Zappa, many of these lyrics are sexually explicit.
So what?
Well, so what? A lot of parents are upset about that. Their children see this, they go out and act out violent acts, perhaps. That's what parents are upset about.
No. You're talking about sex or violence?
Both.
Okay, you said children see this. Are we talking about lyrics and records
No,
here?
they hear it.
They hear it and they go do a violent act because they hear about sex?
Well, people also hear about sex and violence, and people are upset that
the
perhaps
parents'
this might
job is
cause
to
people
make
to go
their
out and do
child
that.
informed about sex. Sex is a normal body function. Don't make it into something it's not.
But what is the problem? The movie industry is self-regulatory. Why not the labels? What harm would come to
I'll tell you exactly the harm that would come to everybody. If you're an actor in a movie and the movie gets a rating, it doesn't hurt you as a person. You're hired to pretend. If you're a musician and you write your material and you sing your material, you are taking responsibility for your art. You stamp an album with a thing, you are stamping a person with that thing, and it hurts the person. That's not fair. People have already put stickers on albums. They exist now. People send clean cuts records to radio stations. No mystery. It says these cuts are clean. That's been going on for years. The whole thing is a cover-up for H.R. 2911, which is a tax that nobody wants to know about.
But do you understand at all, in any way, shape, or form, that parents are concerned about some of these lyrics?
I think that the parents who are concerned about these lyrics should also take a look at their own responsibility to give their children accurate sexual information of a basic nature, so if a child knows what is normal, he'll be able to listen to something like that and say, that's aberrated, it's not for me, I don't like it, it's too weird. But if you don't tell them anything and you take all sex out of media consumed by young people, you're going to create a bad mental health situation.
What about that, Senator? Is it the responsibility of the parents,
well, first
as
of all,
Mr. Zappa suggests, or should government be involved in this at all?
For one, nobody is suggesting that any law be passed. I don't know of any suggestion for legislation in this area. It's simply a matter of putting this on the public record. Nobody is suggesting the prohibition of making these records, writing these lyrics. This is not an issue of censorship. It is an issue of disclosure. It is to provide, hopefully, some mechanism so that at least people know what's going on.
But we are suggesting labels, are we not?
Pardon?
Are we suggesting labels?
Well, the suggestion of labeling has been made, but it's not been made in the form of any legislation. There are private groups that have been trying to urge this on the record companies. I happen to think that that's a good idea because I think that truth in labeling is important. After all, if we have labeling, warning labels on a little packet of saccharin, it seems to me that we should have some sort of warning on records that advocate, bought by young people, and advocate suicide, violent sex, Satanism, and so on. I think that it's just a matter of putting it all out there in the public.
Mr. Zappa, obviously you have an opposing viewpoint, as we've already heard, but is there anything that you'd be willing to give in on this situation about? Is there any way that you could appease parents groups, teacher groups?
No, I'm not here to appease anyone. I don't speak on behalf of the music industry or any other professional group. I speak on behalf of myself. As a parent, I have 4 children, and I want them to grow up in a country that has a working First Amendment. And I think that what's happening here is an incursion against the First Amendment, no matter how many wives or senators say it's not censorship. This hearing is pressure being brought on the record industry. They're saying, oh, we don't want any legislation, but we're sure going to stick it to you in Congress because there's a negotiation going on for the record industry bill, the Mathias bill in the Senate and H.R. 2911 in the House.
Thank you both very much for talking about this controversial subject, which you have very differing viewpoints on. Thank you. for joining us this morning.
This is Frank Zappa with today's edition of Porn Wars. Did you know that today, Senator Hollings, Democrat, South Carolina, has demanded legislation to do away with porn rock by December? Here is Senator Hollings.
But in all candor, I would tell you it's outrageous filth. And we've got to do something about it. I take the tempered approach and commend it of our distinguished chairman. And yet I would make the exception that if I could find some way constitutionally to do away with it, I would.
Thank you, Senator Hollings. Now, during the Senate hearing on September 19th, it was noted that quite a bit of conflicting testimony arose as to the matter of whether or not legislation was wanted or was not wanted. Here is Senator Danforth, Republican, from Missouri.
So the reason for this hearing is not to promote any legislation. Indeed, I don't know of any suggestion that any legislation be passed, but to simply provide a forum for airing the issue itself, for ventilating the issue, for bringing it out in the public domain. The concern is that the public at large should be aware of the existence of this kind of music and the fact that it is now available to kids and that kids of all ages are able to buy it.
Thank you, Senator Exon. And now let's hear from some of the ladies from the PMRC themselves. Here is a question from Senator Gore to Mrs. Gore.
A minute ago, you said there's no way you can tell. In fact, some of the material has an album cover design which will indicate it, but some does not. Is that correct?
That's right. Some of the album covers are very explicit. In fact, they look like they should be in Playboy or Penthouse, some of them. And they're in the record bins available to young children. But others, you can't tell. I bought the Purple Rain album for our 11-year-old, and I didn't know that Darling Nikki was on it, and I felt that it was inappropriate for her and her 8- and 6-year-old sister to hear a song describing a girl masturbating in a hotel lobby or the magazine. I had no warning. In fact, all I knew was from that Prince was the new creative teen idol on the scene and had just received a Grammy Award. So I would have appreciated it if I had known that before purchase.
And now let's get an interesting sort of feminist slant on the whole matter from Senator Paula Hawkins, Republican from Florida.
This is one senator that feels that there's no absolute right to free speech. It's been my experience that no one has the absolute right to yell fire in a theater which is not on fire.
Thank you, Paula. Very astute. And I know you did want that entered in the congressional record because you said so. And here's a videotape of you saying so.
And I'd like that statement to be in the record. I believe no one has the right to poison our children with the lyrics that you have, with your group, showed this committee so graphically today.
Now, in the rest of your testimony, Senator Hawkins, you went on to make some very, very startling revelations about porn rock.
Porn rock. It's my life. And I love sex.
Oh, very interesting, Senator Hawkins.
The next video is by the group Twisted Sister. And we'll show you a brief portion of that. These are very popular videos.
This is the cover of Twisted Sister's high-selling LP for Atlantic Records called Stay Hungry. An example of Twisted Sister's appeal to young people is evident in the back-to-school contest being run by MTV. First prize is a get-together with Twisted Sister. Do me a favor. I think we want an automatic there. If you'll, that little knob at the bottom, if you'll run that back, toward the back. No, I'm sorry, back toward the back of the projector. There's a turn-on knob and the knob below that. Run that back. Okay. No, the one below that. Run that back to the back. There you go. I think we got on automatic. My apologies. The back-to-school contest being run by MTV. Its first prize is a meeting with Twisted Sister. The hit song from the album, We're Not Gonna Take It, was released as a video, which you saw just a moment ago. A video in which the band members proceed to beat up daddies who won't let them rock.
Now, Paula also presented, for the edification and amusement of all those people who were in the Senate hearing, this incredibly exciting video from Halen.
One criticism of the rock industry is the way it portrays values in rock videos, which are viewed by the kids, while we're all busy here being legislators. There are suggestions that the move to label rock albums be extended to videos as well. I don't watch much television. I'm not sure how many of my colleagues get much opportunity to watch any of the music video shows now available on cable and free TV. I brought along 2 videos from which to choose, which I believe are representative of the kind of presentation which have caused the furor. We will show them. The first is by the group Van Halen.
Let's cut to the end of the Hot for Teacher video performance in the Senate and see what happened.
That video is called...
Wait a second, Senator Hawkins, just a minute. No, this is a very large crowd today. We have allowed people in beyond the capacity of this room. We're not going to have any demonstrations, no applause, no demonstrations of any kind.
I thank the chairman. The title of that tape was Hot for Teacher. And we will give each senator a copy of the words. They'll promise not to distribute them beyond their own possession.
Frank Zappa's Porn Wars continue after this.
Pyromania. No question. Burn a building. Burn, burn, burn. Porn rock. It's my life, and I love sex.
Now, as you know, the PMRC, because they are individually very, very nice ladies. I mean, I have met Mrs. Baker and I have met Mrs. Gore myself, and I must say they are charming. However, behind the scenes, someone is giving them top secret information about what is really dirty, what is really ugly, and what is undesirable about rock and roll. And that man is Reverend Jeff Ling, a man so ashamed of being a reverend that he dropped the Reverend from his name when he went to the Senate. Here is the actual Reverend Jeff Ling, introduced as Jeff Ling, consultant to the PMRC, delivering part of his exciting slideshow for the benefit of all of the senators in the hearing.
Let's move on to sexuality, a theme which has been part of rock music since its beginning. Today's rock artists are describing sexual activity and practice in terms more graphic than ever before. Many of you are aware of Purple Rain, the multi-million seller by Prince. Much has been said about the song Darling Nikki from the album. I met a girl named Nikki. I guess you could say she was a sex fiend. I met her in a hotel lobby masturbating with magazines. Another album by Prince called Dirty Mind presents a positive attitude toward the subject of incest. These lyrics are from the song called Sister. I was only 16, but I guess that's no excuse. My sister was 32 and kind of alone. My sister never made love to anyone but me. Incest is everything it's said to be. This is Motley Crue's album, Shout at the Devil, double platinum. The song on the album we're concerned with here is 10 Seconds to Love. Touch my gun, but don't pull my trigger. Shine my pistol some more. Here I come. Reach down real low, slide it in real slow. You feel so good. Do you want some more? I've got one more shot. My gun is still warm.
Here's the best part of the Reverend's testimony. This was the most sensational part of the hearing, as far as I was concerned. This is the part where the Reverend recites the lyrics to Golden Shower by Mentor.
Listen, you little slut, do as you are told. Come with Daddy for me to pour the gold. Golden showers, all through my excrements you shall roam. Bend up and smell my anal vapor. Your face is my toilet paper. On your face I leave a shit tower. Golden showers. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my remarks, and I thank you.
I'm sorry your time has expired. We could have the lights on, please.
Sexual ignorance leads to sexual misconduct. If you don't know what you're doing with it, then you shouldn't really be going around doing stuff with it. So you need all the information you can get. Some of it you have to get from Dr. Ruth. Some of it you need to get from Sheena Easton. For those of you who have big problems, you could get it from Blackie Lawless. But you don't have to follow any of the directions, and that is the point of this whole matter. You don't have to buy it, and if you hear the lyrics, you don't have to believe it. You can listen to it and go, yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what he had for breakfast. And now, more Porn Wars.
Paul, since I traveled the country for 3 years and they said they couldn't understand me, maybe I could make a good rock star. I don't know.
Well, if we're not talking about federal regulations, we're not talking about federal legislation, what is the reason for these hearings in front of the Commerce Commission?
We don't question their right to have their own music. We think that's important.
But rock music doesn't appeal to me at all, but it does to my kids and it does to my grandchildren.
Pornography.
It wakes them up in the morning.
The Parents Music Resource Center is not advocating any federal intervention or legislation whatsoever.
Rock lyrics have turned from "I can't get no satisfaction" to "I'm going to force you at gunpoint to eat me alive."
First Amendment issues are decided with a preference for the least restrictive alternative. In this context, the PMRC demands are the equivalent of treating dandruff by decapitation.
The issue here is larger than violent and sexually explicit lyrics. It is one of ideas and ideals, freedoms and responsibility in our society.
Do you make a profit from sales of rock records?
Yes.
Thank you. I think that statement tells the story to this committee.
Unformed values of still unformed minds.
Not all parents want to keep their children totally ignorant.
You and I would differ on what's ignorance and educated. I can see that, but
We now propose one generic warning label to inform consumers in the marketplace about lyric content. The labels would apply to all music. A voluntary labeling is not censorship.
Somebody in an office someplace is making the decision about how smart my child is.
One can't stop everything.
The labels would apply to all music.
One of the things that I find it most difficult to do is to impose upon others what my particular beliefs are.
The labels would apply to all music.
But unlike Mr. Smith, Mr. Zappa's fight to keep government out of the arts is very real. Let's have a nice welcome, please, for Frank Zappa. Good to see you again. Frank, what was it like testifying in front of the Senate?
Not very pleasant, really.
No? Why?
Well, I don't know whether a lot of people don't pay attention to politics anymore. They just got bored with it. But those people are really quite arrogant.
You're sitting like how far away from them?
Well, let's see. If this was that Senate hearing, I would be at a table right here, and that whole area right in there would be with 50 still photographers. And then right about where you're sitting, there was a circle of senators who kept walking in and out and talking during the testimony.
In other words, you're trying to make your points, right? Considered points, and you may be talking to one guy, but there's a lot of hubbub and stuff in the back.
Well, usually what they do is they come into the hearing room, but they have votes on the Senate floor. So they get up and they leave, and if they have something they don't want to hear, they'll just get up and walk out. And while I was reading my testimony, because I did a 5-page prepared statement that was put in the congressional record, and they made me send them 100 copies of it in advance, so they had already read it. So while I'm reading it, they weren't paying attention.
So it's like a formality. Well, we did see a lot of the hearings on TV, but actually, in your mind's camera, what do you remember that did not get on television?
Well, the thing that most people saw of the hearing on television was Senator Slade Gorton from Washington State telling me that I didn't know anything about the First Amendment. That's the main thing that got carried. CNN ran it about 12 times that day. But the most important thing that was said at the hearing, I feel, was Senator Exon, who is from Nebraska, who Dee Snyder and myself were in the back room at the time he said this. We were listening on a loudspeaker. He was the only guy there who had the nerve to say, what is the reason for these hearings? And did that go on the air? I don't think that went out on the news at all. And you know, as soon as he said that, Dee and I were back there. Yeah, cheer, cheer.
Was there one thing that happened that made you laugh during this thing? I mean, laugh on the inside, kind of.
Well, you know, you want to laugh, but then again, you realize these people are getting paid to do that, and it means that also that somebody was dumb enough to vote for them to send them there to do that.
What do you think actually about the way the whole thing got resolved with the little label on the record album?
Well, considering when this is going to air, the resolution between the RIAA and the PMRC is hollow. It doesn't really mean anything. It's unenforceable. It's full of loopholes. You can't really make anybody do anything based on what they've agreed on. First of all, the RIAA does not represent artists. It represents record company owners, and not even all record company owners. So it's an agreement between a few people and a few other people, but it doesn't really cover the whole industry.
But they were celebrating that victory. Anyway, let's take a break now. We'll come back and talk a little more with Frank and the whole crew. Frank and Pace wants to ask some questions. We'll be back right after this. Let's look like that, Frank Zappa.
Didn't everyone?
Well, anyway, I don't want to let the whole show go by without asking what you're into now. What, you know, the hearings are over. What are you working on?
I don't know whether the hearings really are over, but there's an album that's coming out called Frank Zappa Meets the Mothers of Prevention, and there's a piece on there called Porn Wars, which is 12 minutes long. It's one of the ugliest things you've ever heard in your life.
It's going to get a lot of airtime, right?
It won't get any airtime at all, but I think that if you should hear it at least once.
So why do you make a record that won't get any airtime at all?
Well, I don't make records just to suit the radio.
That's it. Hey, Mom. Frankie and I are going to get together and tell some jokes that don't see television.
This year had a lot of people from all around the world, and the seminar now takes on a very major role in the international record business.
I'm sure that everybody must know by now, maybe it's a little late for some of you to know, that there is some sort of strange national effort to bring censorship to first the rock and roll industry, then to the video industry, then the National Council of Churches wants to have ratings on normal television programming, and then it'll get to books, and then it'll get to any kind of sign you want to carry around the street, and then you'll all be wearing the same colored clothes, and I don't think you're all going to learn how to speak Chinese, but I think that they all want you to sort of worship the same God.
Ladies and gentlemen, this hearing is on the subject of the content of some, and I want to underscore the word some, not all, rock music.
It's outrageous filth, and we've got to do something about it.
The outrageous edge of rock and roll has shifted its focus from Elvis's pelvis to the saw protruding from Blackie Lawless's codpiece on a Wasp album.
I believe it was you who asked the question of Mrs. Gore whether there was any other indication on the album as to the contents, and I would say that a buzzsaw blade between a guy's legs on the album cover is a good indication that it's not for little Johnny.
The problem is that the music might reflect the behavior, attitudes, values of those in the 18 or older bracket. However, when that music is listened to by 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, and 10-year-olds, it moves from the area of being a reinforcer and an encourager into the role of educator. And many of these young children are being educated in these things before they have any kind of frame of reference to properly put it in.
As a policy guide for the individual companies.
I believe that most people in the United States are smart enough to realize that if a parent does not want their children to hear objectionable material, they have many alternatives. 1, don't buy a record at all. 2, shop in the children's section. Get your 8 or 9-year-old child a Smurf record or something like that. 3, buy instrumental music. Have you ever thought of letting your children hear jazz or classical music?
Voluntarily labeling in no way infringes upon First Amendment rights. Labeling is little more than truth in packaging, by now a time-honored principle in our free enterprise system. And without labeling, parental guidance is virtually impossible.
What I suspect is that because rock and roll music reaches so many different people, and it does reach them on a repetitive level, and it does form an important part of their life, if you can control that medium, you are going to be able to control the ideas which go out to those young people. And there are some people who don't want to have young people thinking too much, because you've got to keep them really stupid to buy certain products and to vote for certain people. You have the right to your congressman, your senator, to the FCC, to the sponsors of all the programs that you like, to your radio station. You can write letters and tell them how you feel about it.
It's only made for a market or only made for money. It's music which comes from the heart, and it's music which is fresh.
The major record companies view it as the next new hairdo or the next new wardrobe, and seems to be no long-term commitment to anybody's career.
Many parents feel that some recording artists are exposing children to ideas and language that children are really too young to handle. Well, our guest today is Frank Zappa, a man you probably remember from the 1960s when he was with the group The Mothers of Invention. But since then, he has become a father. He has some very distinct views on the world, especially on the subject of censorship. He has testified in Congress against a proposal to put warning labels on certain albums, letting people know that the record contains obscene or sexually explicit language. Today we're going to be talking with Frank Zappa. We will hear his views on this as a recording artist and as a father, as we share in the information and celebration of motherhood and fatherhood, because every day is Mother's Day. Mother's Day. Hi, I'm Joan London. Recently, Michael was waiting in the hospital for some routine tests, and a father brought his injured leg. Coming up today on the show, we will talk to Frank Zappa about the controversy surrounding warning labels on music albums. So stay with us. My next guest has been making music for 20 years. These days, he's also making news. Frank Zappa is an outspoken opponent of a group that wants to have warning labels put on certain record albums so that parents can protect their children from hearing certain lyrics. But Frank, the father of 4, doesn't believe that's the best way to help our kids. And please welcome Frank Zappa. A crazy guy who did freak out. But now you're a father of 4 children. Why don't you start by telling us what are the ages of your children and tell us a little about them.
The ages are 18, 16, 12, and 6.
Oh, you have your hands full? Okay, 18 years old. That's Mooney, right? And what is she doing?
Well, she has been on this television show called Fast Times at Ridgemont High. She was hired as a consultant first to help them figure out how teenagers talk. Really, that's what she was supposed to go out and come back and tell the writers. They would say, what are the latest words to call somebody fat? And she would go out and she would research and come back and tell the writers and put it in the show. So then they put her in as a minor character in 7 of their episodes. She plays a girl named Barbara the Elvis.
I'm just dying to know, do you know any of the words she came up with for fat?
No, I didn't.
What did you
I'm not.
I try to keep up with how they're talking these days. It's sometimes hard. Okay, and also now Dweezil, he's getting into the industry too.
Yeah, Dweezil wants to be an actor. He started off wanting to be a baseball player, and then he changed to guitar, and he's making an album now, but he has an agent, and he's with ICM, and they've sent him out on a number of television shows and movies, and he's got one line in Pretty in Pink. Mm-hmm. But I think that has a lot to do with the fact that at that time Molly Ringwald was his girlfriend, so hey, get Dweezil in the movie.
And Amit's 10, right?
No, he's 12.
12 years old, okay, and what's he into?
He's just passing through the ninja stage. He's just on the outside edge of the ninja stage. And he wants to be a singer. Now that he sees that his big brother is making an album, he actually sang on one of the songs on it.
Somebody told me, in fact, that he sang on the album and was really great.
He has a great voice. He will be a good singer, I think, and he's a natural entertainer because he's not shy. He likes to dance around, and he has he's not embarrassed about himself, and he'll be a fool for fun.
But what are the dynamics there when, older brother brings little brother in, let's give him a song on the record, and all of a sudden little brother's
great? It wasn't quite like that.
Okay.
Dweezil didn't really say, let's get the little brother in to sing. Dweezil is a really great guitar player, and at the time that the basic tracks for the album were done, it came time to do the vocals, and Dweezil hadn't been singing too much, so I didn't know whether or not he could actually cut it. Turns out that he does have a good voice, and he sung on most of the songs on the record. and pulled it off. But one of the ones was out of his range and happened to be in the range that Ahmet could sing. So he sang that. So then we found out that two of the other ones might have been a little bit better for Moon to sing, so she sang two of them. So it's the only person who's not going to be on it is Diva, and she's very angry about that.
Oh, really? Because I was wondering what the dynamics would be. I mean, if there'd be any real competition or a little bit of resentment going on when they're all doing this together.
I would say that Moon and Dweezil are very close, but there is a certain amount of friction between Dweezil and Ahmet, which is not to say that they don't like each other, but they're not as close as the two older ones.
And Diva, she didn't get to sing, but she's 10 years old.
No, Diva is
okay.
6. Diva is 6. And she will eventually get to be on somebody's record because she's not shy either. She's looking toward children.
A little born performer?
Yeah.
Can I just ask you, I mean, everyone would kill me if I didn't ask you, why did you name them unusual names?
Well, Diva, the name Diva refers to a lead opera singer. And when she was born, she was the loudest baby there. And I said, that's a good name for her. And Ahmet was named after Ahmet Erdogan, who's the guy who runs a record company. And Dweezil, that name was different. That's a made-up name. And my wife has a little stunted toe, which was nicknamed Dweezil at one time. And it was so cute. So I said, okay, we'll call him Dweezil.
Does Dweezil know he's named after a little stunted toe?
Yeah.
Yeah?
But the story about Dweezil's name is when Dweezil was born with natural childbirth, when let's go be natural. So the hospital that would allow you to have natural childbirth had some very strange ideas about what you could name children. And when I took my wife in to have the baby, what's the baby's name going to be? Filling out the form, they begged not to call this child Dweezil. I mean, it's like, we're not going to let you have the baby if you're going to call it that. Furthermore, they demanded to know what religion we were. And all this is a prerequisite to entering this hospital. It was very strange, and it was a last-minute thing. So the answer to the two questions were, in the religious category, my wife wrote musician. And as far as the name went, at that point, I rattled off the names of 4 of the guys who were in my band at that time. Ian, Donald, Calvin, Euclid. And that's the name that went on the birth certificate. But we knew we were going to call him Dweezil. So for years, his legal name was Ian, Donald, Calvin, Euclid, Zappa. But we had always called him Dweezil. When he got to be about 7 years old and realized that the hospital had forced us into his compromising position, demanded to have his name legally changed to Dweezil. We hired a lawyer, had it done. His name is Dweezil Zappa. He wanted it, he's got it. It's on the documents now.
Well, I think the reason probably why some people would say we don't want you to do that is because they would be afraid that they would,
cause ridicule to the child?
Yeah, cause ridicule.
The fact of the matter is, and it still remains true, it's the last name that will get you in trouble, not the first name.
Whoa. Do you think that Zappa would get them into trouble?
Well, I think there's probably more controversy connected to the last name than there would be to the first name. That's been borne out.
Okay, I want to ask you more about life growing up in the Zappa household. And we'll break for just a moment, and then we'll come back and we'll talk more with Frank Zappa. We are back now talking about Frank Zappa. You've been quoted as saying that you're probably a lot more conservative than the people who watch you on TV right now.
Probably.
You said I should worry more about my kids going over to someone else's house rather than them worrying about their kids coming to my house.
And that's true because especially where we live in Hollywood, the use of drugs in people's homes is something to be concerned about. We don't have any in our house, and I don't like the idea of the possibility of my kids going over to somebody else. You meet a kid in school, it's a nice little kid. You don't know what their parents are doing or what's going on at the house. And that, to me, is of more concern than somebody sending their kid over to my house to play.
Drugs are obviously one of the big concerns. Another thing that a lot of parents are concerned about these days, as you well know, are the lyrics that are in rock records now. You've taken off all the outlandish stuff, you put on your suit, you went in front of Congress, and you said, I don't want this to happen.
Well, there's a number of good reasons for that, because what they did at that Senate hearing was a kangaroo court, and it was really just political maneuvering. It was a political opportunity, and the thing that's pathetic about what these women did was, they've made this a career out of it. They're still in business. They had this bogus press conference on November 1st where they got the record industry to agree to put certain labels on certain records. But the agreement has no teeth. The agreement says that parents will have no role in determining